The Las Vegas Raiders have Davante Adams drama. Former players are saying he's unhappy with the organization. Plus, Donald Trump and the Raiders are in the news as Maxx, Crosby, and Gardner Minshew have come under fire for showing support for the former president.
He knew about me. I couldn't believe that he knew that, even about me, that I existed.
And roster cuts are happening right now. Could a former Raiders first-round pick be on his way out? My name is Wi-Fi Willie. We're going to break this all down right now. So the Raiders' former first-round pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, Tyree Wilson, has not performed well for quite some time. In his first year, it was warranted that the pass rusher was not going to do well because he was coming back from injury, and it was understood that this guy was going to have to be worked in and then really try to shine in the middle of the season. But since then, we have not seen things turn out for the positive for Tyree Wilson. Keep in mind, it was Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler who decided to select Tyree Wilson at pick number 7 in the 2023 draft. The new Raiders general manager Tom Telesco has no ties to this guy at all. And there were tons of people like myself, who were critical of the fact that the Raiders did select Tyree Wilson. They already had Chandler Jones on the roster, and yes, we did know that Chandler Jones would take a turn for the worse and eventually be out of the NFL at the time. But also, Jalen Carter, the star defensive tackle out of Georgia, was still on the board when the Raiders were selecting, and he eventually went to the Philadelphia Eagles afterwards. So in 2024, we were expecting for things to turn around for Tyree Wilson, but lately, Malcolm Kuntz has been ahead of him on the depth chart, and this young pass rusher who was a third-round pick in 2021 has really turned things around in the final year of his rookie contract. If the Raiders want to keep Malcolm Kuntz for the foreseeable future, they are going to have to sign him to a contract extension this upcoming offseason. And now you have serious writers from SB Nation, Bill Williamson, talking about the fact that Tyree Wilson could be in his final hours as a Las Vegas Raider. Tyree Wilson really hasn't done much all of preseason. You never hear his name during the game, and if the Raiders want to get the maximum value for Tyree Wilson on the trade market, then you really got to trade him right now while potential GMs think that they could save him, think that they could take advantage of his young career and the fact that he still has 3 more years on his rookie contract this year and 2 more others. If they wait until the trade deadline when more teams see that the Raiders really aren't going to use this guy, that's going to make it so much harder for the Raiders to get a higher draft pick for Tyree Wilson, the former first-round pick. So expect a decision real soon in the next 24 hours, as Tuesday is the final 53-man roster cut day. One thing went absolutely viral just this past weekend right before the preseason game against the San Francisco 49ers, and that was Donald Trump, the former president, out in Las Vegas, pictured with none other than Maxx Crosby, the star pass rusher of the Raiders and team captain, and along with Gardner Minshew, the new starting quarterback of the Raiders, just named officially the starter after the second preseason game. You also have wide receiver Alex Bachman in the picture as well, but you had so many people all across social media, NFL fans, NFL media pundits, ripping into the Raiders, saying things like, oh, this is their first L of the season, oh, this is why they're going 0-17, and that's to be expected. Obviously, one half of the electorate opposes Trump while the other half supports him, and these other NFL fans are going to take any opportunity to poke fun at the Raiders. You know it and I know it. But what was more disheartening and what I thought was really alarming is to see other Raiders fans out there rip into Maxx Crosby and Gardner Minshew for being pictured with Donald Trump. Obviously, the fact that these two guys looked absolutely stoked to be pictured with Trump shows that they likely support him in the upcoming election, even if they're not saying that explicitly. But I just thought it was so crazy to see Raiders fans turn on Maxx Crosby, turn on Gardner Minshew just because they seem to support Trump. Some of them even said that they're no longer rooting for the Raiders this year because of this. In my opinion, how weak is your fandom that just because somebody doesn't have the same beliefs as you, you're no longer going to support them on the football field? Look, people call me a fake fan because I still root for Derek Carr, my favorite quarterback, while he's on the New Orleans Saints. But if you're no longer rooting for Maxx Crosby just because of his political views, then I think you are the real fake fan. And Maxx Crosby's admiration for Donald Trump is nothing new. On the day that Trump was was almost assassinated, you saw Maxx Crosby post a picture of himself with the former president backstage at a UFC fight. And on Maxx Crosby's podcast, The Rush, he talked about meeting Donald Trump and how he thought he was an awesome guy.
Met him twice, and from my experience, he was the most down-to-earth, coolest, respectful. Like, he knew about me. I couldn't believe that he knew that, even about me, that I existed. I went to the fight, and Trump walks in the back. I'm hanging with Dana and the guys. He sat with us for like 30 minutes and just watching the fights. And somebody took a picture, and I'm in the background. All of a sudden, I'm getting murdered online.
The only new information we really learned here is the fact that Gardner Minshew and Alex Bachman seem to be favorable to the former president. And honestly, we still don't even know if any of these guys are going to vote for Trump. That is a private thing that you do inside the ballot box. But obviously, based on these pictures, it seems like they like him a lot. I try to keep politics off this channel because I think football is great, that it brings people from different religions, different political views all together. And I could take a wild guess and assume that Crosby, Gardner Minshew, Alex Bachman all feel the same way. Speaking of feelings, we are wondering, what are Davante Adams' feelings towards the Raiders in this upcoming season? We have seen Adams recently post a picture of himself in Raiders gear and also post a picture of him with Antonio Pierce. I think he was trying to show the public and show the fans that despite the fact that there are these rumors out there about him being unhappy with the organization, which we're going to get into, he is still bought in. He wants to make it work with the Raiders. He doesn't want to have to move his entire family away from Las Vegas. We know that is always a struggle no matter how rich you are. But former Raiders wide receiver DeSean Jackson, who joined the team towards the end of the 2021 season when the Raiders dealt with several injuries and the Henry Ruggs tragedy, well, he has spoken out recently about Davante Adams on Colin Cowherd's show, The Herd, and what he said was quite insane.
This one's tough because, you know, me and Davante, we've talked and you know, man, I hate to do it because I don't want to be the guy that's like, oh, D-Jack said this and said that. But at the end of the day, he is unhappy.
And I thought that was crazy for him to say that he's talked to Adams, he's unhappy. For him to go out there and say that, even if it is true, I think is sort of messed up. Davante Adams probably told him stuff in confidence, thinking that he could trust the guy. But here you have DeSean Jackson trying to get some clout, trying to be featured on more TV shows by giving an inside scoop about how Davante Adams really feels about the Raiders. Maybe Davante Adams knew this was going to happen. That's why he was posting the pictures of himself with Antonio Pierce, posting the pictures of himself in Raiders gear. So it seems like he did get ahead of this, but this little clip from DeSean Jackson has gone absolutely viral. The big question is, even if Davante Adams tried to tell DeSean Jackson this privately, is there some truth to it? And obviously, Adams wishes the quarterback situation was better than it has been throughout preseason. I think head coach Antonio Pierce has made it clear that he hoped that someone stepped out and said, hey, this is my job, I'm going to take the starting QB job, and instead Gardner Minshew sort of barely won the job after 2 preseason games and a full training camp. But either way, Davante Adams is getting paid a crap ton of money this year to be a wide receiver on the Las Vegas Raiders. And even though this was not what he signed up for, I understand how he feels. Part of the reason why the Raiders are still keeping him on the roster right now is because he is the type of player that could make a mid quarterback look even better because he's such a dynamic wide receiver. And even though I've been negative all off season long, I am still holding out hope that Gardner Minshew could surprise us and surprise a lot of people this year. And ultimately, to be realistic, the Davante Adams rumors just need to stop. It is quite clear that a trade is not going to happen at all whatsoever unless the Raiders have a horrible record at the trade deadline. Then it's probably inevitable that Davante gets traded. Part of the reason is because Davante's contract becomes incredibly inflated next offseason. The Raiders are going to have to move on from the guy or restructure anyways. Tuesday night is going to be absolutely insane. The 53-man roster will be finalized then. My name is Wi-Fi Willie. Subscribe for more content from me. Peace out, and I hope you have a good one.